Hi, my name is Chris Gibbons. I'm the director for the Healthcare Administration program here at Mercy College, and you are receiving this email because you've expressed an interest in taking our practicum. So I want to talk a little bit about the practicum and what the next steps are in this video to kind of make it not seem so daunting because we do give you a lot of information right on the front end. But hopefully all the information that's been attached to this email will help you guide you through the process, basically from beginning to end. All right, but the first thing I'd like to talk about is what types of students take the practicum. There are really two different buckets. The first bucket are students that are required to take the practicum. And as of fall 2017, for students entering at that point, we did have a requirement of healthcare experience. So what that means is that if you did not have at least 1 year of experience in healthcare at any time in the past, or currently employed in healthcare, you are required to take the practicum. So there's those triggers. So you might be in that bucket, in that you have really pretty much zero healthcare experience or very, very minimal healthcare experience in the past. Now, the other bucket is for students who have maybe plenty of experience in healthcare, 20, 30 years, could be even that. And you're really looking at this as an optional piece. This is an elective. It's not required for graduation. For the other students that do not have that experience qualifications, it is a requirement for graduation. But for the other bucket, again, you've met all the experience requirements that we need for healthcare, but you want to take it because you want to either learn something new or see another area of healthcare to advance your career or really expand your options. So both classifications of students, it is really, really great for. And actually, we even have more folks that take the practicum as an elective than as a required component. So that's kind of exciting. All right, so you're basically in one of those two buckets and you want to do the practicum. Now, typically we run the practicum in the spring of every semester, and we want to do that as close as possible to when you think you will be completing your program. May not be exactly on the button where you're going to be completing the HCA program, but try to get that as close as possible. Reason for that is when we send you out into the world to do your practicum, we want you to have some of that theoretical knowledge that you've had from your HCA classes. So the more, the better, and that's going to make you look all the better when you're out there working in the practicum. All right, so that's a little bit about that. Now let's talk about really what are the next steps for you to do. The first thing is to find where you want to do your practicum, and we leave that up to you, which is really the cool part. You get to pick, maybe an area that you are interested in within healthcare. Now, I'm going to ask you to put on some creativity. Healthcare is the second largest employer in the United States outside of a single employer, outside of military and the government. And what that means, it's huge. It's a lot of things that are healthcare that you may not think are healthcare. So, for example, well, obviously hospital systems, healthcare. But nonprofit organizations that support healthcare are also considered part of that same landscape. And your practicum has to be one of these types of organizations. Again, has to have either a direct or supporting connection to healthcare. I'll give you an example of one that usually we have students every year that go to this organization. That's Ronald McDonald House. So Ronald McDonald House is healthcare. Absolutely. They support families whose children are in hospitals. Okay, they are direct, and they're usually located either on the same grounds of the hospital or very, very close, usually to some sort of regional children's hospital in whatever part of the country. So they're definitely connected into the landscape and support system of healthcare. So um, be thinking even about organizations like that. It could even, be supply chain organizations. For example, individual companies that supply medical gases, oxygen and nitrogen. to hospitals are definitely part of healthcare. So it is a pretty wide spectrum. I just give you a couple of random examples out there, but really anything that's directly involved with that healthcare or the ancillary support mechanisms can be healthcare. So uh, the world is pretty wide open for you in what you're looking at. Most students have an interest going into this. They have a specific focus they want to explore in. So great. Go ahead and go for that and look into those areas. Now, how do you do that? Well, part of the learning experience is we want you to knock on some doors. This is also going to help you with establishing that that networking that you're going to need to be doing to really advance your career. So you're going to have to learn to basically knock on some doors, and you're going to get some no's out there, like you will in anything. And but you'll most likely get a lot more yeses when you look at asking individuals to host you. You're really looking for someone to host you for the semester. Now, I would recommend, again, trying to find that decision maker within that particular area. And there might be multiple layers of decision makers within that area, but you have to sell yourself on what you're going to be needing. A lot of the information is located in the attachments here as far as what you'll be doing, but I think you can make the message pretty simple. When you talk to somebody, you're going to be telling them, I would love for you to host me. I really have an interest in this area. You're going to be enthusiastic, like an interview, enthusiastic, and express your interest to learn more about what they do. You're going to emphasize that this is a non-paid practicum. It's not an internship, which are actually paid. That's why we don't call it internships, but as a non-paid practicum, and it's going to be for 120 hours. So most people are like, wait a minute, you mean I get free labor for 120 hours? They're going to love having you there. Actually, you'll probably get, again, a lot more yeses than you will nos. Um, but you want to make sure that it's beneficial for you too. So when you're talking to that decision maker, or you're talking, kind of working your way through an organization to sell yourself on this, you will want to make sure that, again, the experience that it's a two-way street. Now, you may get the vibe that it's not necessarily going to be a two-way street. Well, let me explain. You want to be doing some meaningful projects, and I would propose it like that. Eh, the person's going to say, "Well, what do you want to do here?" And you're going to say, "Well, I would love to be involved in some projects." Maybe one larger project, maybe a project that you're currently working on, or maybe one that you've always wanted to do but didn't have the labor to do it. Those are the things that I can help you with. So typically, what students do is they, again, work on one or a few projects for their organization. That's probably the best thing. Not necessarily end all be all, but those are the more classical type of practicums that we have. What you want to avoid is doing a lot of, I've cleaned the stock room today and I've answered phones. That is not what you want to do. Now, you may be asked to do that from time to time. We all have that stuff that we have to do, and that's okay. But that shouldn't be your primary function. You really want to be involved in some higher conceptual things that you're going to be doing for the organization. So you may find an organization that's gung ho and ready for you, but they want you to organize the basement. No, you don't want to. Yeah. Well, maybe I can help you organize the basement, but I would love to create an inventory system for you and some supply chain information to help you with your ordering processes. Okay, that might be kind of cool. So again, be careful as far as what you're looking for, and that you are getting kind of a two-way street out of this. Most preceptors, they know why you're there, and that you do need to be engaging in these higher level activities. So that's, yeah, I think you're going to find that's not too difficult a discussion with folks. If at any time and you're in your practicum and you're not necessarily happy with the activities that you're doing, then you will sit down with your preceptor, and hopefully you're sitting down every week with that person, if not every day, and kind of discussing what you need to get out of it. Very, very rarely have we had a situation where a student, we had to pull them out of a practicum site because they really weren't getting what they need. Probably haven't had to do that in about 5 years. But it's something that we want to be aware of. Again, you need to be getting an educational experience out of this, and that's usually provided by higher level activities. All right, so you're going to go forth and you're going to find your practicum site. And it's going to again be 120 hours, and you're going to be looking for those things. Now, I've attached a list that we've used historically, and it kind of gets updated. Excuse me, as we find this information, we update it, but so it may not be very accurate. But what you can use it for is inspiration. Use it to think about some ideas. Again, the contact information may be correct. It may be a little dated. I don't know. But use it more for inspiration on ideas. Let me show you what that list looks like real quickly here. Let me shrink my picture down here and pull up the list. So you can see here, we've got all kinds of things. Now, these are pretty much only for the Northwest Ohio area and Ohio. But again, use these as somewhat of an idea. MedMutual, I'm just picking things that MedMutual is a big insurance company, healthcare insurance. Of course, hospitals all over the place. Victory Center, that's a cancer support group. A lot of interesting things in here. So kind of use this as sort of an inspiration. Apria here, that's Apria Healthcare. That's that medical gas places out there. American Cancer Society is on here as well. So again, just use this for some inspirational ideas. It's not necessarily the final list. Again, that this is just again get some ideas on where you might want to do your practicum. So once you've found that and say you've talked to the individual and you are ready to go, what you want to do is look at this checklist. It's called the Standard Procedures for HCA 404. That is the name of the class that you'll be registering for. So you do want to make sure that you register for that class in the semester that you're going to be taking your practicum. It's only 1 credit hour, which is great because I know classes are expensive. So only 1 credit hour for this course. And these steps here, basically, one through 6 here, you're going to want to do, and that's what we've been talking about here for the past 10 minutes. Once you've identified, you've had that individual, they're ready, you got the site, they love you, you're ready to go. They want you there. What you're going to do then is you're going to fill out what's called the practicum information sheet. Basically, just tells me what you want to do, where you want to go, and who the contact person name is. At that point, once I receive that, and you're going to email that back to me, once I receive that, then I will check and see if we have a clinical agreement with that facility. A clinical agreement is something behind the scenes. It's basically legal compliance liability, all in one big document. And we send that to the clinical site. They sign it. We sign our side, so on and so forth, and it's all done. Now, it can get a little bit more complicated than that. If their legal may want to look at it, our legal may want to look at theirs. They may have their own clinical agreements. Just know that sometimes lawyers are involved. About half of the time, actually, lawyers are involved. So that just lengthens the process out for us to get a completed clinical agreement done. So the quicker you can identify your site, the better, knowing that sometimes it can take a month or two for the legal process to grind away in the background for us to have this signed document, for you for liability purposes. Know that for any of our students going out to clinical, we do maintain liability insurance, some pretty high numbers out there. Now, in HCA, you're really not going to be involved too much in direct patient care. It's kind of hard. I always say it's kind of hard to kill somebody. You really have to throw that stapler pretty hard to do some damage. But you are in the hospital and you might be interacting with patients, and liabilities and such could be out there. So we do have that. That's already kind of built in behind the scenes for your liability insurance. All right, so you're going to fill out that practicum information sheet. That's going to tell me where you want to go. I'm going to see if we have a clinical agreement. Let's assume we've got one, or we got one in place and it's all signed. From there, it's pretty easy. You're going to work directly with your preceptor. That's going to be the individual, kind of the key individual that you've defined at your clinical site. May not be the person you're working with every day, but it will be that point person at the institution. And you're going to work out that schedule. Um, Now, it's totally up to you on schedule. You work it around what works for you and for the preceptor and for the practicum site. You work your schedule around. The key number to remember is you need to get 120 hours in uh, by the end of the semester over the 16 weeks. So what a lot of students do is they'll break it up into maybe a couple of different sessions, about 4 hours a week, um, uh, or 4 hours a day, twice a week, usually gets you to about 160 hours. You might have to do a little bit extra here or there, um, or 120 hours. I'm sorry, 120 hours by the end of the semester. About 8 hours a week usually works. But you're going to be tallying. You're going to tally your hours every week. We're not going to hound you about the hours. It's going to be up to you to get the hours in. Where we are going to hound you is if you don't at the end, if you're not at the 120 hours, then we're going to be starting to have some conversations about how we're going to get you to complete the 120-hour requirement for that. And there'll be some check-in points with you throughout your practicum, making sure things are okay and you're getting the projects that you need and that kind of stuff. There is a little bit of a synopsis at the end of kind of what you've done, nothing really detailed. So you don't need to worry about major external assignments with this course. Your assignment is really pouring yourself into that practicum for that 8 hours a week or thereabouts and really learning what's going on in there. That's where the learning is going to happen. We just want to make sure that you are getting what you want kind of out of this as well. So there will be some external requirements, but very, very, very minimal. Nothing like you're normally used to for an academic course. All right, so there is that piece. Now, you'll read through this little checklist, if you will, and there is a part in here where it says if you you're going to have to receive a kind of a go no go from me on a clinical location. That's basically want to make sure it's an appropriate healthcare entity of some sort, and that we have the clinical agreement in place. If you pick an organization that we do not have an existing healthcare or an existing clinical agreement, and we are working on getting that, I would always think of a plan B because we have had situations where clinical agreements have been stuck in legal compliance at either on our side or their side and have not gotten the clearance in time. So it's always a good idea to kind of have that plan B in your mind. And we'll let you know. We'll let you know to say, hey, let's start thinking about Plan B just in case if this doesn't come through in time. But right now we have quite a few, over a couple of months. And that's when we like to reach out to students to get all of this squared away. So we should, knock on wood, be okay. But think about maybe your second or third choice as you're kind of scoping the landscape. And we'll try to have a backup plan should your first clinical site, even though your preceptor may want you, like, oh, I really want this person, the legal side could say no, or something can happen at the organization. We've had this too. Maybe there's a big change or they have a new computer system and they just don't want a student. Now, the timing may not be right, and that could come and get you. So always have a couple of other options that you may want to go through. All right, so basically, you're going to look through this checklist and kind of go through those items that we've just talked about. All right, so that concludes the video. There's other steps. I shouldn't say a lot, but there'll be some other steps as we get started. The next biggest one after the clinical, getting that actually arranged, your practicum clinical site, getting that locked in, is one that's really all on you, and that is the background check requirements. Almost all of our clinical sites require a certain standard protocol on background checks. It's usually a criminal check and drug screen. There might be a couple other checks they have in there in getting those done. those usually don't. Those are usually very doable within a couple of week period because it's really on you to go in and get your drug screen and get the background check and all of that. And we have a process for doing that here through a organization called Castle Branch. We outsource that background check process to them. They manage the whole thing. It's all done online. Um, but it is going to take some time for you. You may need to go to the doctor's office. You're going to have to go get the thumbprint for the background check. So there is going to be a little bit of administrative stuff that you'll need to do. But we can't start really any of that until we have a really good handle on where you're going to be going. So that is basically the big thing. Find out where you're going to be going, and then you let me know, and then we kind of keep going from that point. All right, that concludes this video. So take a look at the information that's been attached to your email, kind of digest through that. If you have any questions in the process, please feel free to email me. You're going to get contact from a couple of individuals as you go through this. So look for emails from me or emails from Angie Lust. She helps coordinate a lot of this stuff in the background. So Angie may be reaching out for you, reaching out to you. So please don't ignore those emails that are coming through. All right, so excited that you've chosen to look into the practicum. Again, we've had a lot of students who've had some really, really great experiences with our practicum, with jobs, with new exposure to different things, with networking opportunities. So that's overwhelmingly been a positive experience for our students. All right, well, that concludes this video, and thanks for watching.